What's up, Lauren?
Hi, Ryan.
We're back.
We're back. It's been a minute, but we're back.
It's been a little while. This is too much in common. As you can see, we don't not do that anymore. So it has been a little while, but this is our podcast.
I was waiting for you to say welcome back to Too Much in Common.
Sorry. We're not trained. We're not practiced. But speaking of Too Much in Common, we're now going to do this little segment very quickly at the beginning of a podcast. And this is probably a hot take, and we might get some flack for it. But something that Lauren and I have very much in common, and it made me feel so good, is F Napoleon Dynamite. Worst movie ever. Literally couldn't pay me.
I thought you were going to say The Dishwasher, but yeah,
we'll get to that
like
next time.
Napoleon Dynamite.
Couldn't pay me to watch it. Like literally the most secondhand embarrassment, awkward movie ever.
Both Ryan and I get really bad secondhand embarrassment.
But people love that movie.
People
it was a hit.
I know.
You know how many people were freaking the Pedro for Halloween? I bet to this day people are still Pedro in that movie.
Yeah, even if people aren't dressing up as Pedro anymore, if you did, people would know exactly who it is.
F that movie.
Yeah, we don't like that movie.
So
not that we watch a lot of movies to begin with, but
true. Another thing we have in common.
Yeah.
Today's
topic, Ryan, what are we talking about?
We are going to talk about body dysmorphia, muscle dysmorphia, and kind of like disordered thinking of your body. Mm-hmm. And this applies to obviously people in bodybuilding, the general fitness population who, try to improve their appearance through exercise, or honestly anybody. And we kind of talk about just kind of cultural norms and stuff like this and how it affects
disordered body image issues that people deal with and like severely diagnose, the actual diagnosis of it. Yes.
So the outline that we have is we're going to define body dysmorphia. We're going to talk about who deals with it, why people deal with it, basically the role of plastic surgery and like our cultural norms that may impact these kind of things, especially
with women,
and especially in the United States. Why it's prevalent in bodybuilding and fitness seems like that could be kind of obvious. But then most importantly, kind of the reason we wanted to do this episode was we've both dealt with it in varying degrees. And we'll kind of talk about that. There is a reason there's a DSM-5, just meaning like a psychiatrist has to diagnose you to have an actual labeled diagnosis. It'd go on your medical chart. There's a reason there's a diagnosis, and there's a reason that it's kind of like a spectrum. Like many things, anxiety, depression, OCD, just because, I get anxious, but I don't have like an anxiety disorder necessarily. If I went to a doctor, I would not be prescribed a medication. Yeah. And so we'll talk about that. And the reason we want to do it is because, yes, like I said, we both have had varying degrees of it, and we want to tell you guys, that it's normal and also how to deal with it.
Yes. Yep.
So, speaking of curing all your ailments, this episode is sponsored by AE5. This top-of-the-line green supplement is quickly emerging as a go-to for grandmas, grandpas, moms, dads, dogs, and even little babies. Lauren, I know you have been thoroughly enjoying taking AE5. So can you please tell us what you love about it?
Well, Ryan, I absolutely love AE5 because it makes me go to the bathroom 5 times as often. Its super laxative effect promotes great digestion and well-being. Its inability to mix and the fact that it tastes like dirty, chunky pond water is exactly how I like to start my mornings. Ryan, how did you become addicted? I mean, why did you start taking it?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. I love how unless you take it 5 times a day, it has zero effect. And for the best part, it's the only supplement you have to take. Well, you should take because it's 5 times more than any other supplement. So really, it's the only one you can afford. But it's great because it's the only one you have to take. So thank you, AE5, for sponsoring this podcast. If you want to learn more, you can go to www.5timesaday5timesasmuch.com. So
back to our regular programming.
Why have we been gone? It's been about a month.
Yeah, we have not produced a podcast in a minute, so we're going to get consistent again. But we've just been super busy.
Literally so our last episode, if you follow, see, these are technical issues that we're doing. Can you just press that mute button on the computer? Thank you. Just, bear with us, guys, as we're getting back into the perfect. Anyway, our last episode, if you follow us, we talked about boating because we went on a lake camping trip.
Oh my God, that was our last episode. That's crazy.
Pretty much since then, I have traveled. So that was 4 weeks ago. I've traveled 3 of the weeks. And some of those were also, I took a lot of time off to go elk hunting because it's September. September is for elks. I also, and we won't get into all these stories, but basically I also the 1st of September.
Somebody got some stitches.
Almost cut my thumb off, actually. We'll put up some pictures. Obviously, we're on YouTube, as for the people know, but like most people just listen to us. But if you want to see some potentially gruesome pictures of my thumb, I had to get 5 stitches in it. Got lucky. You can cut the tendon. It could have been completely gone. Yeah, and I will tell you that without a thumb, like life is hard. It's crazy. Like the fact that we have opposable digits. Still numb is the kind of freaky thing.
Yeah, both Ryan and I have nerves that are growing back.
Yes.
Mine on my collarbone and Ryan on his thumb.
And it's about 1 centimeter a month, so we're playing that long game.
Yeah, we are.
And yeah, just travel for work. We also traveled to go to a wedding.
Yeah, there was 1 week where I was in 3 different time zones.
Literally.
Within
a week.
Within probably around like 3 or 4 days, it was 3 different time zones.
Yeah, because you were here, you were in Boston and San Diego.
Yes.
All in a week. So Lauren also was traveling a bunch. You went to Boston. You went to San Diego twice.
Yeah, I went to San Diego twice and then going to go to Boston twice for work.
Yeah.
So we've been busy.
It's been crazy.
And there's been days where like I'll be getting in and then Ryan will be leaving.
Yeah.
And then
there is multiple.
It's like, oh, hi. Oh, hello. And then
bye,
basically.
Yeah. So that's kind of the update, why we've been gone, why you guys have not heard from us.
Yeah, but we're about to be boring AF.
Yeah.
We are just going to be so routine,
so
boring. Just gym, home, food together. That's
literally.
That's what we were doing. I mean, I guess we're just going back to our,
It's been not very boring though, at least for me. I haven't been very boring. Because I've been doing all the scouting and elk hunting. And so now it's very much just fitness focused.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a coach for the first time in my life.
Yeah, Ryan's getting coached.
Reaching out. Shout out 3DMJ. So we'll see. Yeah, that's where we've been. So let's get into the meat of the discussion.
The meat and potatoes. All right. Let's define body dysmorphia. Ryan, take us away.
So I had to write this down specifically so you guys are getting accurate information here. So it's actually called BDD, body dysmorphic disorder, or body dysmorphia, is a mental health condition where a person spends a lot of time worrying about flaws in their appearance. These flaws are often unnoticeable to others, and people of any age can have BDD, but it's most common in teenagers and young adults. And like I talked about in the beginning, it is technically a DSM-5 diagnosis, and that is basically the DSM-5 is just a book of diagnoses for psychiatrists. And those
it's on its 5th edition.
There it is. DSM-5. It's great that they do that. It's kind of like AE5. It's fifth iteration. But so in that vein, we'll talk about some of the symptoms because some of these would be like constantly checking yourself in the mirror.
Wait, can I tell you a fun fact before we continue?
Please.
Did you know that being gay or lesbian used to be in the DSM-5? Or no, not the DSM-5. It's not on the DSM-5, but maybe I don't know what one it is. Might have been like 2 or 3 or something. But yeah, it was in there for a long time.
That kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
From how we used to think.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay. Sorry. Continue. That was my fun fact.
Thank you. We should bring a fun fact every time to the podcast.
Yeah, we used to do fun facts. We can bring that. We can bring that next time.
So, also the contrast of that would be instead of constantly checking yourself in the mirrors, you actually avoid mirrors, or trying to hide your body part under a hat, scarf, or makeup. Constantly exercising or grooming. Yeah, that makes sense. Constantly comparing yourself with other people, which that one has gotten more complicated nowadays because of social media.
Yeah.
So. And then always asking other people whether you look okay.
I feel like that's definitely girls. I don't know how much guys do that, but
I got a buddy. But
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so just those would be like the top 5 symptoms. Obviously, there's varying degrees of all that. And go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I guess everybody knows somebody that has done these things or you personally have done them to a certain extent.
Yeah. And there's not, and so that was the point of the intro and also the DSM-5 discussion. Just because you even have all 5 of these does not mean that you have a diagnosable condition of body dysmorphia. Yeah. The kicker with all this and what we did our reading on was basically it has to affect your inability to live normally. Yeah. So if like every day you're late to work because you're constantly grooming or because you're exercising too long. Or you're like changing
your clothes. Like, oh, I don't like that outfit. Oh, it makes my stomach look bad. I have to do this. I have to do this. And I feel like another thing that like I feel with women, there's always one body part that they don't like.
It did actually say a specific body part that like is usually small and unnoticeable to everybody else. But to you, it's like
the only thing you see. Yeah. Like when I do check-in photos, all I can look at is my stomach.
Yeah.
And it's all I can see. And my coach will be like, your legs look great. And I'm like, thanks. Back to the stomach.
Yeah. Yeah. So a true diagnosis would be you, like what I just kind of said, is you must be abnormally concerned about a small or non-existent body flaw. So, and that's part of this is it's a lot of like your reality versus what other people actually see as reality. You might see something that you think looks insane or looks like a flaw. And literally, even if someone's not even being nice, like literally someone else will be like, I don't even see that. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So that's where it says it could be non-existent. And that is where you start getting into like, okay, it's obviously a mental health disorder.
Yeah.
Because that is actually disordered thinking, like your basically reality is not real. And so that's where you can kind of see how this becomes more of a mental thing. And you can even know
that too. Like when I was dealing with it really bad, you're like, I know these thoughts aren't true, but they're still here.
Yeah.
And so you can know that your reality is very different than other people's.
Yes. And we'll get into that later, but that's exactly where like in Lauren's example, because, you know, I was there when she was going through it and I could tell it wasn't going to be something that was like too serious because exactly what she said, she would tell me that like, I know that my thoughts aren't real, but I'm still having them. And that's that's totally, I wouldn't say like normal, but that's totally not
I feel like that's the best way to deal with it in the sense of just acknowledging it.
Right.
Like, hey, I am putting on this extra, extra large t-shirt, which I never do because I have body dysmorphia.
Yeah. And you would like when we went paddleboarding, I remember you said that. Like, oh, yeah, I have body. You were like making a joke kind of. Whereas I think if somebody actually has an issue, usually there's a lot of shame, right? There's a lot more of like covering up that you don't want people to know that you're thinking like that, right? And so I think those are some of the big differences of like having disordered thinking kind of versus like actually having body dysmorphic disorder.
Yeah.
The actual diagnosis. And yeah, just to be succinct, it also says kind of how I defined, but your thoughts about your body flaw must be severe enough that they interfere with your ability to live normally. And also the mental health professional would have to rule out any other mental health disorder first. Yeah. And then this is kind of like the, down the ladder
I wonder
disorder.
If like anorexia, if you can get 2 diagnoses at once, like you have anorexia and you have body dysmorphia on top of that, I'm sure that could be.
From what I remember, and
I feel like you almost would have to. Yes. It would almost have to go hand in hand of like anorexia or bulimia.
And yeah, I guess it usually, with what I remember, it's been a while, but like the definitions of those type of things like anorexia or bulimia usually do have to do with body dysmorphia. So I think it's like body dysmorphia starts first and then those follow.
Yeah.
But those are also like the definitions of those are so rigid. It's like, yeah. Especially like they have to have a certain amount of eating episodes per hour for bulimia and like purging and like all the things, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no way that those aren't interconnected. And I guess we should just, as a public service announcement, obviously with any of these things, there is no shame in like, if you have this and you're listening to this and maybe you're not even aware because this isn't like a thing people talk about normally, right? Like you're not going to just you hear about anxiety, you hear about depression. That's like everywhere, but they're not like teaching you in high school how to like identify your body dysmorphic disorder, right? I know eating disorders.
They should. Yeah.
And eating disorders, because it is mostly a female thing. Obviously males have it. They have been better about like knowledge, like teaching and education for that. I remember in school we kind of learned about that.
But I feel like it starts with body dysmorphia, like you said.
Yeah.
So like they'll teach you the second thing that happens.
Right, it's already too late.
Yeah, they'll teach you when it's already too late of like, oh, if you've been doing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think it should start with, hey, if you've been having thoughts about X, Y, and Z.
Right. Because that is one of the things for treating it is it's better to get after it before it's like becomes too much almost, because if you're just doing all of these things, constantly checking the mirror, constantly exercising, constantly grooming, whereas like maybe you're only doing one thing right now, if you can like nip that in the butt or bud, people say bud because I guess it's like you're a tender of flowers, the bud.
I like the butt better.
Yeah, me too. So you're gonna nip that in the butt first, then you will not go on and have this like unraveling and you do all these other symptoms. But I guess what I want to say nowadays, right? Like there used to be a lot more shame with like anything, like seeking therapy or talking about anxiety, talking about your feelings. So I don't care, guy, girl, there's no shame in like getting help for something like this. That's kind of what we're trying to bring to light, is that this is not some like crazy, like you're some like solo 1% person that like thinks like this and it'd be really embarrassing to go to like a health professional. No, this is like, if it's in the DSM-5, it affects affects enough people that you're not alone. So just that kind of caveat is like, don't feel bad. Don't feel ashamed. There is help out there. And they said the most common types of treatment would be cognitive behavioral therapy, which is basically talking to a therapist. They do basically like behavioral talk and you try to reduce certain behaviors. So if you're checking yourself in the mirror all the time, you work on those kind of things. And then they've also found that certain antidepressants in combination with cognitive behavioral therapy can be very beneficial.
Yeah, I definitely recommend cognitive behavioral therapy first before.
Yes, always try that first because you don't need to just go on drugs.
First, and then if you absolutely need it, then.
Yeah. So with that being said,
yes.
Who deals with it?
I feel like everybody deals with this to some extent, whether you're a guy or a girl, whether you're like skinny or overweight. I don't think it matters. I think everybody deals with this and has dealt with this at some point in their life, especially because social media is so prevalent and everything. And I think a lot of times people think that only women deal with this, and that is not true at all.
No.
So Ryan is currently dealing with this and can speak on that. But yeah, I feel like everyone deals with it. So like you were saying, it's good to bring it to light and it's not something to be ashamed of. And if anyone listening, you can reach out to either Ryan or I because
we'd be happy to
talk about it and share your feelings.
Right. And so, why people deal with it, I think there's so many reasons. Normally, and I love this story because, and I think I've actually brought it up on this podcast or maybe in a YouTube video, but I'll keep it short. But you are your own worst or most critical judge, right? We all are. I look at myself way differently than Lauren. And one time I was at the gym and it was basically like there's these three older guys and this younger dude, who's probably my age back then, like 18. He was training with them. And, they're kind of being like, I guess most people think it'd be douchey. They're like flexing the mirror, right? And back then I was kind of like, all right, bro. But now I understand. But anyway, so the young kid is flexing the mirror and he's just like, he like kind of was complaining to the older guy, like his mentor type of thing. He's like, oh man, I just feel like I'm not growing. And it was just like so cool what the guy said. He like put his hand on his shoulders like, come on, bro. You see yourself every single day. He's like, I only see you once a week. So I see the growth. He's like, imagine if you grew an inch, over a month, that's very, very small every day. So if you're looking at yourself every single day, you're not going to see potentially the things that other people are seeing or are not seeing. Yeah. And so I think that's one of the reasons people deal with it is like, even if you're like, so let's use weight loss as an example. You're doing everything right. You're dieting, you're going to the gym, but you're looking at yourself or maybe weighing yourself. Or I think a lot of people who are, on the bigger end, they don't like to weigh themselves because it's uncomfortable. So they're just trying to lose weight, right? So maybe you're not even weighing yourself and you're just looking in the mirror. Yeah, if you're losing a pound a week and you're bigger, you're not going to be able to see that. Like it's going to take months to be like, oh, I'm actually changing.
It's so great when other people start to see it, though.
Yeah.
It's like when they bring it up, you're like, oh my God, thank you. I have been working very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
it's important to also take different measurements of progress, like progress pictures and measuring and the scale. And so you're not just looking at one number. Because I know with women especially, the scale can be a touchy subject.
Yep.
And yeah, sometimes you don't want to weigh yourself. There's been days where I'm like, I'm not weighing myself today. I'm not going to like the number. And it's going to ruin my day if I see the number kind of thing. Yeah. But if you take other measurements, then you kind of know like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like I just had a bunch of water and salt yesterday.
Yep.
Like my physique is changing. I am making progress, blah, blah, blah. So just to have one marker of progress, I think you walk a thin line. It is very important to have multiple markers and to have a coach, in my opinion, that can also like check you of just like, hey, you are making progress. Here's why. Because they, as a coach, they should also be taking all of that information as well. Like you should and they should. Yep. So they can kind of check you.
It's good to have a second opinion too of like, because with a lot of these things, you are going to think like, I'm a little crazy. And then if you have someone else like confirming that you're not, it feels kind of good. But also I would say.
It can feel the opposite way.
It can, yes. I would also say, and maybe, I don't think this is a hot take anymore, but like 10 years ago this was, and I think it specifically has to do with women, and this is maybe just my small subset of the girls I went to college with or whatever, but a lot of girls just did cardio. And so if you're just doing cardio, trying to lose weight, specifically in that example, yes, the scale is going to basically tell you what's happening. But and this is the hot take, if you're doing it right, and you're lifting and doing cardio or just lifting to try to lose weight, which is harder, so maybe a combination is better, the scale is going to be lying to you because if you're putting on muscle weighs more than fat. Yeah, so the scale could actually be going potentially down way less than you think, even though you're still losing a lot of fat, or it could be going up depending on your training.
Yeah.
So just be something to think about.
Yeah, if you're doing like a body recomp where it's, you are or putting on muscle and losing fat.
If you're untrained,
scale might not move.
Yeah, literally, it could go up.
Yeah.
And that could feel really bad mentally, and that's exactly what Lauren said, which is so perfect, is having multiple metrics. Because if you measure like, waist circumference or something like this, and it's like, oh, that's going down, but the scale's going up, and it's like, well, yeah, and if you measure bicep circumference or something.
And if you take those measurements every single day, you understand your body more, and you can kind of rationalize it. Like the other day I weighed myself, I'm like, oh, the scale's up. Like I was in a caloric deficit. Why is it up? But it's like, okay, well, I hit leg day, and so my legs are definitely inflamed. And if you have like a really, really hard workout, you're going to hold more water. Your body's going to be more inflamed. So you're going to weigh more. Yeah. So I feel like if you do take it every day, I have a kind of an issue with people weighing themselves just like once or twice a week. Because I'm like, well, what about all the other days?
Who would do that?
Not me. I don't know.
Not anymore. Now I'm back from being boring. I'm weighing every day.
Yeah.
Tracking it with the Whoop.
There you go. Yeah, and your Whoop or your like whatever wearable that you have, or it's a Fitbit, Whoop, or a Ring. There's Garmin, a million others now. Right. Those metrics as well, because Whoop doesn't track your steps. It's absolutely awful.
Just if you could do that, Whoop, if anybody out there from Whoop is listening, which you never know,
please add that function. I know you can.
And also, if you'd like to, because this is my hypothesis of why it doesn't, is the battery life. That'd be my only thinking.
Yeah, we were talking about this last night. It has to be the battery life. It's okay, fine. I will wear a 5-pound thing if I can wear my wearable.
Lauren wants it bigger, and she wants her steps.
Yes, I need my step count every single day, and I want a graph. I want a graph of my step count, like how there's a graph of my sleep and there's a graph of my weight and all those things. And
weekly, monthly, yeah. So to the Whoop engineers.
That's true.
There. Okay. So what? And I think to summate that or to give a conclusion.
Oh wait, hold on. I have more to say on this topic though.
Please do.
Okay, I think another reason why some people, at least in our kind of circle or industry, deal with this is because with bodybuilding, you lose weight for stage, right? And then you gain it back, and some people gain it back rapidly. And in that rapid gain, it messes with you so much. And I think it's different. I think the best way to not deal. I mean, you're going to deal with it kind of regardless. But I feel like the best way to deal with it if you have just done a show is to slowly gain the weight back.
Yes.
Because what was messing with me is I would gain the weight and I would have like massive body dysmorphia. And then it would kind of plateau out. And I would be like, okay, I'm used to seeing my body at this size. You know, like I went from 115 and I had body dysmorphia all the way up until 120. And at 120, I was like, okay, I feel fine. And then I rapidly gained to 125. And I'm like, ooh, body dysmorphia. I don't like this. And then every day in the mirror, I'm like, okay, I look good. Okay, I look good. Okay, like this is fine.
You become more comfortable.
Yeah. So it's just like how fast it would happen was messing with me so bad. So I feel like if you can prolong that process, then that is the best way to do it.
Yeah, and I think that works perfectly with kind of what I was saying is that the slower the changes are, especially if you're looking at yourself every day, you're not going to see them. Versus if you went from one day to the next and it's like, whoa, yeah, you're going to start thinking more negative thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened with you. Obviously, once you got to a certain weight and you were comfortable and it like looked normal, you're like, oh yeah, this is fine.
Yeah.
But it was getting there rapidly was like, yeah, kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think Lauren said it perfectly. For anybody who might deal with this or is dealing with it, multiple metrics tracking is definitely the way to do it. And also just realize that like you are your own worst judge, enemy, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. You're going to be the most critical of yourself. And I don't know, like I guess when Lauren is going through this, I understand it's like very hard for her to hear me saying things, but like I would always tell her, and I don't know if it helps, so maybe tell me right now live. I'd be like, Lauren, listen, when I met you, whatever, you didn't look like this.
Whatever Ryan said, I didn't like.
Yeah. Until I said,
I
did say one thing. We'll get to it at the end when we talk about how we both deal with it. Because I remember I did say one thing and you were like, actually, that felt really good.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
So.
Well, I think what helped, I guess, yeah, that's
but like,
towards the end of like when I can talk about my
I guess the point is like, you can try. Like in my position, I wasn't just going to like accept that she was going through this and not like say stuff. I was like, I fell in love with you and you didn't look like this.
But I think that's the thing with body dysmorphia.
You don't realize.
It doesn't matter what people say. It is like what, and I feel like that's what I was trying to explain to you. I'm like, you can say a million nice comments to me. I will still think this about myself.
So I guess for the people and for myself, was it better that I said something or should I have just not said anything? What if I was just like,
it helps because I talked to one of my friends about it and I talked to many people about it actually. And because I was just kind of looking for things to make me feel better and nothing was. Compliments weren't making me feel better. I wasn't necessarily fishing for compliments, but in my mind, I was thinking, I was like, if I talk about this more,
it'll be more
like
normal.
It will be better. I was like, because I think in your mind, you can spiral and spiral. I'm like, okay, if I just put it out into the universe, I think it will go away faster. Did it? I don't know. Like compared to if I just had kept it inside, I think that would have been worse.
Yes.
But when we went paddleboarding and I didn't want to take off my clothes, I didn't want to be in a swimsuit. One of my friends asked like, oh, are you going to go in a swimsuit? I was like, no, I have body dysmorphia, so I'm not going to go. And she was like, oh, okay. Like, and that made me weirdly feel good.
Just like it's normal.
Like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, just the acknowledgement of it. Of like, you have that and that's okay.
Cool.
I think with maybe OCD, people do that. Like, oh, I'm going to check the door 20 times. And the other person that you're with is like, okay, I'll wait. And you just feel better.
You're like,
I don't know.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah, it just made me feel better. Because she had already known.
Yeah. I think the best way to say that is it's okay to not be okay.
Oh yeah, we've talked about this. It's okay to not be okay.
That's was that Sophie? So maybe I shouldn't just say names. Or Jess.
No, it was Jessica who said it.
So I think that's cool because that's basically what she said to you. It's like, okay, that's fine. You're not okay, and I'm not gonna like sit here and like ask you about it or like, oh, what can I do to help? It's like, she's like, yeah, that's fine. It's cool. We're all kind of messed up sometimes. You know?
That's what it felt like when she was like, okay.
Yeah,
like,
I have problems too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. all good.
And when you shared your thing, that made me feel better as well.
Yeah, that did help.
Yeah.
I could see that. I could see the light. Because before that, it was like, oh, shit.
Ryan was just trying to give me compliments.
I'm
after
saying
compliments.
bad things.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, look at your stomach. Look at this. I fell in love with you when you were bigger. And
well, I didn't
blah,
say
blah,
that.
blah. Okay, something along those lines. That's how I took it. But then Ryan eventually, after many, many compliments later, he was like, oh.
You got to save that.
No, okay, we're going to say that.
That's for the last part. But yes, that did help. Okay, so that's why people deal with it.
Yeah,
at least.
And the next point,
the next point kind of goes hand in hand with this, and it's about how, because we talked mainly, and this is how we deal with it, is like fitness and bodybuilding and just, gym goers. You're going to deal with it more. Why? Because you are trying to get a certain aesthetic, and there's also mirrors everywhere at the gym. You're constantly looking at yourself, right? That's
not
like
CrossFit.
Not
That's the
CrossFit.
one thing about CrossFit.
It's true.
Yeah.
They do not have mirrors. But most normal gyms have a ton of mirrors. You're constantly looking at yourself.
Promote the body dysmorphia.
They probably do.
No, I'm just kidding. It's nice having mirrors. It makes it feel more open. You can look at your form. There's many good reasons to have mirrors.
There's a lot of positives. Yeah. But even for the so this could be gym goers, non-gym goers, I think in general, our culture has promoted, and you see it sometimes, like I don't watch too many of these, but I've seen like reels or like TikToks of like, it would be a girl. I saw one specifically who she's like, oh, guess my age. And it's, she admitted to having like a lot of plastic surgery on her face. And a lot of the people were guessing like 38 and she was like 22. Don't quote me on, it was like very different though. So, and that makes me really sad because it's like, where in that did you feel like you had to do all that? Like, who are you doing that for? Because let's be honest, I can speak for myself. You can tell, like, as a guy, I'm like, nah, like, that's, your lips are massive. And like these kind of things,
that's
it's
where I
like,
see it go so far.
Yeah.
Is with the lips.
Yeah.
That where I think the body dysmorphia with your face is very sad.
Yeah.
And like the risk that goes into it with that many surgeries is just, and I mean,
and
I'm speaking
money.
from, so much money. Yeah. And I'm speaking from a place, I have had plastic surgery, right? So it's not, I understand it, but I did not do it from a place of like insecurity and fear and obsessiveness. It was just like I want this. I can afford it. I'm going to get it kind of thing. And I don't think that,
I think and this has actually been something I've been kind of like passionate about for, I don't know, because I learned about it in like an abnormal psychology class. And they showed us, of course, one of those ads where it's like the breakdown of the girl was the model. And then they showed not only how much makeup and all the things that they did to her, but also the airbrushing and photo editing afterwards. And then this ad goes out to, vulnerable teenage girls or younger than adolescent girls, right? They're seeing this girl, like, okay, Kylie Jenner would be an example. Didn't she just get recently busted for saying she was natural, but she like had done a ton of things?
She might have claimed natural at some point, but
now it's like out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right. It's obvious. That was what I read. But anyway, it doesn't matter who it is, because even if it's not her, if it's some girl, but they're making her basically fake, these other girls are comparing themselves, right? That is very much
especially
more female.
Social media, Facetune.
Oh gosh, everything, editing. You could take. I've seen your AI software, like that. You can do some crazy stuff.
Yeah, you can do
from
very
your phone.
crazy things.
So the point is that
and in videos now too.
Really?
Yeah, they can contour your waist in videos. It's crazy. And you're like, nothing is real on the internet. And that's what you're comparing yourself to. And I know I follow a lot of plastic surgeons because I've had plastic surgery, not on my face. But what I've seen on the internet is girls will go into their plastic surgeon with like filters on them and be like, I want to look like this.
Oh gosh.
And it's like they're,
airbrush perfectly.
Yes. Their lips are bigger. Their eyebrows are a certain way. All those things. And like when you've seen somebody that has so much filler in their face, sometimes that filler falls and it's not done correctly, or you get like a lazy eye from it, or you get some crazy infection from it. And even with BBLs, like I know BBLs, they are really, really popular to go down to like Miami and get them. That is a massive surgery. That is very, very high risk.
Yeah.
So,
and yeah, I guess from my point of view, not being a woman, is I just think it's really sad because at the end of the day, what these girls are trying to do is chase an unrealistic standard. Like they are trying to become something that is actually fake. And it's not even fair that they have to, without knowing, right? Because usually it's like you're younger. Without knowing, they have to compare themselves to this person that's not real.
I think it's getting better now.
It is getting better, yes.
Yes, of like, okay, that's not real. That's not real. That's not real.
Girls
and people
are
are making
learning.
videos, of like, hey, this is my normal face and this is my filtered face.
Right, or after makeup, like these kind of things, right? Like, so I look like without makeup. And
if you, like, for gym goers, the pump, that's when you're taking your best photos.
Oh, yeah.
You don't look like that going around every day. Like, your muscles are
you can
full.
add serious size from a pump.
Yeah.
Like, and it looks awesome.
It does. It feels awesome.
It does.
And that's when you want to take your pictures and post them.
Yeah.
So I give kudos to people that take photos and post them when they look good, when they look bad, when they,
all the
it's real
in-betweens.
life.
Exactly. It's reality. Yeah. So I just think that part, it does kind of strike a chord in me of like, I just think it's sad that that's kind of like part of our culture in a way. And guys are similar. So this is I think this is my fun fact. We both brought one.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know. So I'll just ask and we'll get people thinking for a sec. Well, I'll even ask you, even though I think I've told you this.
Okay.
What is the most common implant for men? Give it a second if you know the answer.
I want to say the
what? It's not.
Is it a penis implant?
No, it's not.
I don't know. Guys are very self-conscious about that. So
yeah. So
wait, hold on. Let me guess. Let me guess.
Yeah,
again.
and then I'm going to talk about something funny.
Is it like chest implants?
I think that's the second most common. It's weird.
Chin?
Calf.
What?
Calf implants.
Did you see that you can make yourself taller? People are getting those surgeries.
What?
No, baby, I'm being completely serious.
Oh my.
They break, I think it's your femur. And they,
add like a...
Yes, they add inches.
Wow.
And then you are in rehab forever. Like 6 months to get a couple inches.
That is...
Calf implants?
Calf implants.
Okay,
Last
to
I
be
checked,
fair,
maybe like
there was this guy at the gym, great upper body. And I was like, bro, you don't hit legs. You just don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, also calves are just, a lot of guys will know this, is they're hard to grow. Like,
Skinny little calf.
Yeah. Not me, but some guys out there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this is a fun
calves.
game that all guys should play if you have a significant other. And one of my friends showed me this. I did it with Lauren. Speaking of we're just going to go off topic for a second, but speaking of the penis implant, okay?
Oh God, what are you going to bring up right now?
So what you need to do is you grab a tape measure, gentlemen, okay? And then
you're going to tell everyone to measure their penis right now?
Listen.
Okay.
You grab a tape measure. You have the numbers facing you, okay? And you start slowly unrolling in front of your partner. We could, hold on. For the YouTube, for the people who do watch, I'll show you exactly what you do.
Oh,
Yeah.
you
Lower
have
in the
done
numbers.
this before.
Sorry, I probably walked away, but for the people who do watch, this is what you do. And I'll explain it for the people who are listening. So you have a tape measure.
Yeah.
And you have the numbers facing you, gentlemen. And then what you do is you slowly start pulling it out, and you tell your girlfriend and or wife, not your mom, that'd be weird, to stop when it's at 6 inches. And it's very funny. Okay, so go ahead, baby.
Stop.
Wow.
I've done this before.
That's
I've done
nice.
this before. So
Perfect. So
I know what 6 inches looks like, babe.
So this, we don't need to go further into that. You just understand. And when you first did it, she was very wrong. I'm just going to say.
What did I get?
You stopped it like way short, which is very common.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
See, I learned from my mistakes.
yeah. It's just on that random topic that has nothing to do with anything right now, but
Yeah.
yeah, so that's okay. So plastic
Don't get
surgery.
penis implants.
Yeah. All right,
Any other
I
things
do
about plastic surgery that
I do want to say this, and I think I'll speak mainly to men, but I think it goes for both ways, is that you're always going to find, like, I'm bald. All right. That sucks. Okay. Yeah. I've thought about hair transplant, these kind of things.
We looked into going to Turkey to get him a hair transplant.
And obviously, like, before I met Lauren, or like when it first started happening, yeah, it sucked. I was like constantly aware of it every day. I was like, this is just annoying. And it is kind of like a body dysmorphia thing because you're like, I look so different, blah, 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 right? Anyway, the point is, I could have gone and done some hair transplant for like $8,000 and I might have looked potentially better. But guess what, Lauren?
I love your bald head.
She
baby.
loves me bald. So the point of this conversation is the things that you might think are flaws in your looks are somebody else's perfect gem, and that's what they absolutely love about you. Yeah. And she literally said that she doesn't think she liked me with hair. Is she just saying that to make me feel good? I don't know.
We could do one of those filters, like the AI filters, to put hair on you.
I would do one of those wig things. That would be like, I do it once.
Go to a wig store.
I'm talking like the nice ones where they like cut it and everything. I do that,
but it'd be funny just to go to a wig store and just like try on a bunch of different wigs.
The point is that guys and or girls, is before you make like these crazy decisions to completely alter your body for tons of money and dangerous chemicals going into your face that can cause lazy eyes. I mean, Botox is the strongest poison. It like in toxicology, I have a master's.
When you told me about this, I was like, what?
Yeah, it is so strong. And basically what it does is it makes your muscles not work. That's why you lose the lines in your face and stuff. But before you do anything like that, just know and have confidence that there's probably someone out there that's absolutely going to love whatever it is. Like, all right, for example, Lauren, let's say before she met me, and I don't think this is true, she like looked at her chin and she didn't like her chin. What do I absolutely love about you?
Ryan loves my chin and I
love it. See, and that's such a weird thing, but the point is something that you could be like, oh man, this is so whack on me. But you're going to meet someone there and they're going to love it, and they would never know that you were self-conscious about it. That's the difference. It's not like Lauren told me, I don't really like my chin, and then I'm like, I love your chin. No. This was just like, I love it. So I think that summates that pretty well. Don't go fixing what ain't broke just because you think it's broken. Somebody else might think that's the best part about you.
Yeah, that's true.
And usually it's just not worth it, because if you're trying to look younger, like that girl in that video, she ended up looking older, and like all these people in chat were like, oh yeah, you're 38, and she's like 22. And how bad does that feel? It's probably like $40,000 of potential plastic surgery.
Yeah, that stuff adds up. There's this one podcaster that I listen to and watch, and I follow her on Instagram and everything as well. And I went back and I looked at photos of her, and she's not that old. Yeah. She's like probably early 20s, old enough to drink, right? And I went back to, she had been posting forever and ever, like in high school. And she just looks bad. Like I know, like, who cares about my opinion? If she loves it, then that's fine, and yada, yada, yada. But I'm like, it makes me like feel sad.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what
sad.
It's sad.
It's sad.
Like it's not me trying to be judgmental, but I'm just like, you are so cute and like innocent looking, and then you did all this stuff to your face and it just looks so different, you know?
Yep.
And like the bruising that comes with it and stuff too. If you ever meet girls that like have a bunch of dots all over their lips and their lips are purple, it's just because they just got a bunch of injections in there. So, and it hurts too, I've heard. So, I don't know. I don't know.
In my opinion, usually, like, I'll think more from a guy perspective. Usually you're doing those things for the wrong reasons. Like, any guy who's like getting calf implants is like, oh, the ladies are going to love this. No, they're freaking not. Like, right? Like, are you going to love that if you're...
I swear I feel like plastic surgery is a lot for the same sex.
Exactly. Like, other guys.
I feel like calf implants are for other dudes.
But I
feel like the lips for other girls.
And here's the thing is if you think you're tricking anybody, you're not. Because I've seen guys with calf implants, and I mean, I know anatomy, so maybe that helps. I'm like, dude,
pictures.
Like, that's not realistic. There's no freaking way. Or like, you're just talking about girls with like lips and these kind of things. Like, you can look and be like, yeah. So I don't know if they think that they're like fooling someone. I don't know. But I think, what I want to put my stamp on is like, you're beautiful the way you are, that kind of thing. Like, you don't need to change, at least like surgery wise. If you think that you're overweight or like these kind of things, or you want to add more muscle as a guy and you're skinny, I understand that. That was me. I think that's a totally different interpretation of this, and that's totally fine and healthy to a point. Is like, you want to be more muscular because that's a cool thing in culture. That's a thing that you want your clothes to fit a certain way. You want to be healthy, right?
Yeah.
And that ties in perfectly to our next point, is that why is it more prevalent in the bodybuilding and fitness, industry or like area? And there is one thing I learned about with this is, so there's body dysmorphic disorder, or BDD. And then there's also something called muscle dysmorphia. And so this has become a lot more common recently, and this is more for guys. I think body dysmorphia is probably more like women generally. There wasn't, the stats on this were trash, I'm just not gonna lie, because a lot of people don't get help for this.
Yeah.
Literally, I saw one thing, it said the prevalence of body dysmorphic disorder was anywhere from 1% to 52% in the fitness community. Yeah. So you can tell that people do not self-report. So regardless of the stats are trash, we can't really tell you. But muscle dysmorphia has become a lot more prevalent. And when you just think about it, I was telling Lauren, is that you'd always hear back in the day, girls used to be like, oh, like Brad Pitt from Fight Club is like my ideal body. And now
we just looked up a picture of Brad Pitt for Fight Club.
He's skinny.
Yeah,
he has abs.
A picture up on YouTube.
I'll put it on the video.
He looks fine, but now
good.
I would be like,
too skinny.
Okay, yeah, like.
And so then you just have to think about
belts? I don't see him, but.
So like, I guess, and one of the things that was interesting, they talked about even like action figures for like little boys and teenager or whatever. Yeah, they said brawnier. You look at let's take The Rock for example. That dude's massive. Like he's not a normal human. You cannot attain his physique. That's unrealistic. He says, at least last I checked, he says he's natural. There's no freaking way. Like, he's just too big. He's old. All the things, right? So, and that's another, like, Chris Hemsworth, these kind of people. I'm not saying none of them are natural. I'm just saying some of these people have freak genetics in terms of the way they look, in terms of how they put on muscle.
Yeah.
Or like Zac Efron in Baywatch. That is not realistic to attain. He was insanely shredded.
Zac Efron's plastic surgery looks a certain way. I mean, but I understand that was because of an accident that he had to have reconstructive surgery done to his face, or that's what is being said and claimed, that there was an accident, a car accident.
Yeah, you just have to be careful with all this, because like even that Liver King guy, it was I think in my opinion, very obvious he had ab implants as well. Yes.
That is crazy.
Just plastic sheets of just perfect abs. And I saw like on Joe Rogan, there's a guy who like kind of assesses all these things, and he was like, yeah, that's probably ab implants. So the point is that muscle dysmorphia, specifically for guys, has gotten a lot worse because there are a lot more people now. So like if anybody knows the Sam Solik dude, he popped off, and he's very much admittedly taking.
He doesn't even compete.
No, he just takes a lot of drugs, and like apparently I don't watch his videos, but apparently he's kind of like a cool guy to like watch. And I get that if he's like, his personality's cool and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the thing with that is it's almost a trap, because then kids are like, oh, he's like, Sam Solik's really cool and he's funny. I want to look like him. It's not attainable naturally. Like, you're not going to get that. So that's where this muscle dysmorphia comes in, is that a lot of guys will take steroids or take all these illicit drugs to try to attain something, not caring about the outcome, meaning your health outcome, your heart. A lot of these people, people
have died on steroids.
Yeah, tons of. I mean, anybody knows John Meadow? Like, he was a very big name in the fitness space, and I think it was like 52 he died. It's just super sad. So
that stuff is so hard on your heart.
Yeah, it's a similar thing though, because it's your reality of you looking at yourself. You don't think you're big. Like some of these guys who you're like, that guy's massive, they think they're small still. Mm-hmm. So they're still trying to put on more and more and more muscle. And it's this disordered thinking of like, I think I'm small.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons why in the fitness, because obviously the comparisons are very easy to make. You're at the gym, you see other guys.
I think that's the thing. When you are that fit, you are surrounding yourself a lot of the time with people that are like, I'm at the gym for hours every day. Right. And so those are the people that I see every day. Those are the people I'm like comparing myself to every day. But if I go walk around Walmart for a half hour, I'm like, I am a fit, beautiful human.
I think, this is another perfect example of, so we normally go to Vasa, right? Which is like way more of a commercial type gym. So there's a bit of everybody in there.
Yeah.
And not to be like cocky or anything, but like, when we walk in, we're generally probably in the top, percentage of fitness there.
Yeah.
Just generally. I go to arm thrusts sometimes with Lauren, which is a very much more bodybuilding, right? Like they do posing there, like all the things. I think Ronnie Coleman worked out there once. Like that's the vibe, right? The old school iron. And when I go there, I feel like I'm a miniature man. Like literally, I'm like, dude, I'm not even half this guy's size.
I know you feel that way because when you
it's crazy.
I can see you. I hear you get negative when we're there. After we leave armrest, you're like,
yeah, there it is. Body dysmorphia.
The one thing that I like about
I question
that
everything.
is,
I'm like, what am I even doing?
I think it's the way that you look at it when you go into a gym like that, because with Armbrust and with Prodigy, which is a bodybuilding gym in Fort Collins that I go to, it's you can walk in with a certain mindset of like, oh, these are my people. Like this, like you're surrounded by a group of people that, yeah, maybe probably somewhere on steroids, right? But also it's a group of people that work very, very hard because steroids can only get you so far without, you know, you have to work hard as well. You
still got to work. Yeah.
You still got to work, you know? And so that's what I kind of like about going to those different kinds of gyms, specifically bodybuilding gyms and not just your commercial Vasa or 24, is because you get to be surrounded and kind of humbled.
Yeah.
You know? Because I feel like if we only went to Vasa and then we're like, ooh, we're so fit all the time. Oh my God, I'm going to go compete.
Yeah. And the reason that I do get mad, I guess, or not like mad, but just kind of like in my head, the thinking I get is like, it's hard for me to like see somebody at a gym like that, a guy, obviously, and be like, man, he just works super hard and he has freak genetics. No, because I instantly am just like, no, he probably takes drugs. And to me, that makes me mad because I'm like, I'm comparing myself, but it's like not fair. But you have that shadow of a doubt that he could be natural. And that's like the hard part, right? Is like the ego is like, I've worked so hard, but I'm like half his size. Yeah. So then I'm like, he probably takes drugs. And then it's kind of like annoying because in my mind, that's cheating. Obviously, if you're in an untested bodybuilding, that's totally fine. But I think just in general, to me, that feels like cheating. So that's where I guess the feelings come from.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
But no, I mean, it is cool because when I do go there, I'm like, wow, these people are super strong. And it does make you feel better versus exactly what you're saying. Is you can almost get too comfortable being at like another gym. You're like, oh, I'm so fit.
Yeah.
Or if you go to Walmart all the time.
That's what I told Ryan too. I was like, you need to work out with people that are better than you.
Yeah, looking for somebody. No, I'm just joking.
Looking for a gym partner, PSA. No, I feel the same way with like girls. I like working out with girls that are better than me because it definitely pushes me. And I'm like, yeah. I want to be humbled.
Yes.
Humble me.
Yeah. So I think that, I mean, obviously we just kind of hit on it all, but like that is why when you're in specifically bodybuilding, when you're in that type of space, it is very much more apparent because you are way more critical of yourself, especially in bodybuilding, because you're posing, because you're getting pictures taken, because you're taking videos of your posing routine, of your physique.
I also feel like bodybuilding as a sport, it attracts people that already kind of think this way to a certain extent. Yeah. Right? You know, I don't think people go into bodybuilding like, I don't care at all about my body. It is a physique sport. It is judged.
That is how you win.
Yeah, that is how you win. Yes. It is somebody's subjective opinion of your body, which I feel like you have to be comfortable with. You have to be comfortable talking about your body in a very specific way and not let it get to you so much mentally of, you know, if you get judges feedback and it's like, bring up your glutes, bring up your shoulders, do this,
pecs
do
are
that.
Small.
Yeah. For example, if somebody says like, oh, your pecs are small, bring them up. You can be like, oh my God, my pecs are like,
no, you have to
can't
be
believe
fine
they said that
with
to me.
criticism.
You have to be okay with the criticism. But I understand, you know, body dysmorphia is like more so self-criticism.
Yeah.
So.
And I think, so this would be, this is a good transition to our last point, which is like our experience with it and how we deal with it. And I think a perfect example is pecs for me. Like I've never been, when I was like super lean, like when I first started working out, it was kind of cool, but it's just because they're like flat and it looks like totally chiseled. But I had no body fat. Like I was literally probably like 4% body fat for like a year. But anyway, ever since then, that's just where I hold fat. It's just an unlucky. And a lot of guys have that scenario. It's either like the love handle type vibe or in their chest, right? I hear a lot of guys like, oh man, I want to spot reduce fat in my chest. And it's like, that's not really possible.
Nope.
You can make them bigger, which can help. But anyway, me being like very critical of that, like when I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh, like they could look better, this, that, and the other, is not body dysmorphia. And that's where I think this whole thing kind of ties in, is I am very critical, and I do sometimes like look and be like, oh, man, like I just don't like that. And I do extra chest workouts because of that. I have to put in more volume to try to potentially change what they look like.
Yeah.
But it's not affecting like my daily life. Like I'm not sitting there for an hour like trying to get like different angles and like look at them or like hold the skin or like tape the skin, but right, like anything crazy like this where it's not affecting my daily life. It just affects how I train in the gym. And I think that's like the bigger difference is like you're going to, if you are, you know, chasing a certain physique or even just trying to chase a certain muscularity, like Lauren said, like guys, a lot of times all upper body, no legs. But then eventually I feel like you look at it, like I look ridiculous. So then you're going to be like very cognizant that you need to bring your legs up, make them bigger. Mm-hmm. And you will be much more critical of your legs when you look in the mirror because of that. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I don't think that's body dysmorphia. I think that's just like almost more attention. You're like paying attention.
I think you can have healthy criticism of your body and look at it in a subjective way, like kind of how a judge would.
Yeah.
You know? But I think it's just when the negativity is consistent and it's affecting different parts of your life. Yeah. You know? But you said that you're kind of dealing with body dysmorphia now.
Yeah. Right? So let's talk about that. Because what I was going to say also is that I don't know, at least me, for guys, right? Like my friends. I don't know anyone who I have not trained and wrote a program for or trained with who's not like, I want to change this. Yo, bro, can you write me more workouts for my abs? Because I don't like how they look. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's just normal. Like in fitness, you want to change certain ways that you look. And so I guess the point of that is that you shouldn't be like after listening to this, like, holy crap, I have body dysmorphia if I think like this. And it's like, no, you might be like on a very, very small part of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. So for me, basically what happened is I was shooting my bow at elk camp and I cut my thumb very badly on one of the broadheads because that's what you have to shoot an actual elk with versus the field tips that you practice with. That we don't need to get into that. It was very sharp. And like I said, 5 stitches. I had to keep them in for like 10 days. Numbness, couldn't bend my thumb, and it hurt really bad to just do like certain movements. I get like weird, shocking pain. So it was pretty much from like beginning of September until this week, literally. So it's been almost 3.5 weeks that I have not trained how I normally have, which is for years. For years, I have not done something like this in terms of like having to not train.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, at least for me, and I think this is pretty normal, it's kind of the opposite of what happened to Lauren, is like I, in the mirror, started just imagining like I was losing all this muscle. And I felt way smaller, even though, which is crazy, I barely lost any muscle almost at all. I'm almost the exact same weight.
I didn't notice anything, babe.
See? Exactly. So I was being very critical, and it just shows you how mental it is because I know I wasn't lifting. So to me, I felt like I was smaller. But really, I'm not. Like, I wasn't getting any smaller. Yeah. Like, I measured myself, I weighed myself, and it's just not true. But it's really hard to not have those thoughts, and it's really hard to convince yourself it's not true.
Yeah.
And I think, so the way I dealt with it, which is maybe not like the most, it's not the best advice for everybody. I just started lifting again when I could, and now I'm fine. So
problem
like
solved.
Literally after one day of lifting, I was like, oh sweet, actually I still have all my muscles.
Welcome back, buddies.
But I think in reality, how you deal with it is similar to how Lauren talked about. So now we can talk about what I did say that helped you.
Okay.
So I was sitting on the couch. Lauren was talking about things. I was saying a lot of dumb things. To me,
I got mad at Ryan.
Yeah.
I don't know what you said that I got mad at, but I was in the bathroom curling my hair, and he was on the couch sitting.
Yeah.
What did you say? Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either, but I was like, Ryan, that's not helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. So whatever I said wasn't helpful. But then we started talking about it some more. And what I told her, because I guess she didn't know, I guess I thought it was kind of like normal, but I was like, oh, like, basically I was like, babe, I've dealt with this too. Like, I kind of know how it feels. Like, I don't know exactly how it feels for you, but I understand, and like your feelings are valid is kind of, right? Is that kind of how you took it?
No, because I think a lot of times you did say like, "Oh, your feelings are valid," and I would just be like, "Thanks, yeah, I know."
Okay, but it was when I acknowledged.
No, it's not even the acknowledgement of mine. It was
when I like
acknowledge yourself of
yes.
like, "Oh, hey, I dealt with this, during X, Y, and Z time, and this is what was happening with me, and blah blah blah," and then nothing about myself.
Yeah, and I think I also brought up, which I won't obviously talk about, but like a couple of my friends I know for sure have done it. And I think I also I'm like, yeah, like, oh, this guy has had it. Like, I've watched him go through. So I think it was like that joining of like, and that's kind of what we said in the beginning is like, you're not alone. This is very common.
Yeah.
I think that just feels good because it's so hard with any of these things. That's why they're mental.
It's a lonely feeling.
Yeah, it's
too.
mental disorder. You think you're the only one thinking it, and it's
with everything. There's like billions and billions of people in the world. Any thought that you have had, it's not original.
Yeah,
it's not an original thought. Like, and however creative you might think you are, everybody has dealt with these same problems like 10 times over.
And it's really easy to have like "woe is me" thoughts. We're just really good about that as humans. It's like, oh, I am the only one who thinks this way. Like, I'm alone. No one knows. But it's like, yeah, people do know. And once you like accept that and can have like the other, just the feeling of somebody else going through it and like, oh, I've been through that and I made it through. You're like, oh, all right, that's cool. Like, there's hope.
I think also the internet can be a very bad, negative place, but it can also be a very helpful place. Like when I posted on Instagram about my body dysmorphia, I had so many people reach out, and that was really, really helpful. And I know one girl who won the overall in the last show that I did. She made a whole like PSA about body dysmorphia of like, hey, if you're going through this, please reach out to me. Like, we can talk about it together. And I was like, I didn't end up reaching out to her, but it was very like sweet that she would say that because she is aware this wasn't her first show. So she's aware that, people go through this. And I feel like for first time competitors, watching your body change back and reverse dieting is 100% the hardest part.
Yeah.
So just, I think mentally being prepared if you are going to do a show, if you are going to compete and it's your first time, of understanding the reverse diet is the hardest part.
Yeah.
The body dysmorphia is the hardest part. And people told me that over and over and over again. Yeah. And I was like, okay, like whatever, fine. All right. I'll deal with that bridge, cross that bridge when it comes. Horrendous feelings. Like so bad.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So, but how did you deal with it? Like
going back on prep.
Okay,
I
neither of us have very practical examples, but
no. Okay, I feel like I dealt with it when things leveled out. It just kind of settled. Okay. The feelings kind of settled when things leveled out.
Stop changing a little bit.
So like the advice that I would give somebody is just wait. Like the feelings will eventually go away.
Yeah.
And I feel like, oh, time heals everything. That is the worst thing to hear.
Yeah.
So I think when I was done with my first show, we really focused on mountain biking. Unfortunately, I got hurt. But for a couple months there, we were mountain biking a lot. And I feel like that was really helpful because there were some days that I did not want to go into the gym. I didn't want to see myself in the gym. I wanted to wear big shirts. And I feel like if you do want to cover up and you do want to wear a big shirt and that makes you feel more comfortable and that will get you to the gym, then okay, that's fine. Mm-hmm. And there's some days that I didn't want to get on the scale and I didn't want to see the number and I knew it was going to ruin my day and I didn't do it. And that's okay too. And it's just you'll get back to it eventually. Yeah. So I just think know that time heals everything and do not underestimate the feelings. Be prepared for these feelings and know that they're going to come. And I feel like knowing that is coming, I think is helpful.
Yeah. I think for anything like this, it's how I guess, we'll do a very much succinct way of saying this, but I've had Lyme's disease. And with Lyme's disease, I had insane anxiety. It was almost crippling sometimes. Mm-hmm. Some days it was just insane. But the way that I've always, how I basically fixed it back then, and I think this works for many mental disorders, right? Because if you think about it, all these definitions and kind of what Lauren was just talking about, it's a continuous thought. it's not like you're really doing actions. You're just like looking at yourself and you're like, you're not happy. And you're like, oh man. And it's just, you keep thinking.
Is. Yeah, it's
and
on
it's a
repeat.
cycle, right? And so I want you to think about that as like anything, anxiety and depression, less so, but still it's a disordered thought pattern and it's a continuous cycle. And that's how anxiety felt for me back in the day when I had it with Lyme disease. It was like, it was just always cranked.
You're a little hamster on a wheel.
Yeah. So this would be my practical advice, not just, start working out again, because that doesn't apply to everybody. But with anything like this, that's a disordered thought pattern, you need to break the cycle. And what helped me, and I think kind of Lauren hit on it without like knowing, because we didn't talk about this before, is like for her mountain biking. All of a sudden we were ultra focused on mountain biking. It was a performance-based thing. It was not, you don't have to look a certain way mountain biking. And I think that probably like mentally, you like when you were mountain biking, I'm sure you weren't sitting there like, oh, body dysmorphia, like I look weird, right?
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering like, don't fall,
don't
like,
die.
There's a log,
Yes.
like, there's the rock.
So that's always been something for me. And what helped back then is I was lifting a ton that didn't do it. Like going to the gym would sometimes help, but I started playing a lot of pickup basketball. And you can't just sit there and be like thinking anxious thoughts like when you're in the zone.
Yeah, it definitely interrupts the loop for sure. So I think anything that can interrupt the loop.
Any hobby that you can break that cycle and then you can continuously do that. At least for me, what happened over time is it became way easier to break because your body is like, it's like anything. You're training your mind to not think that way. And literally it was like the craziest thing. It'd be like 2 hours I'd play basketball. And I'd like stop playing basketball and I'd think consciously, I'd be like, wow, I didn't even have an anxious thought that whole time. That was crazy. And then they'd start again.
Breaking the cycle also requires potentially other people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good distraction.
Yeah, other people are like the best distraction ever. I don't think going out and drinking is a good way. There is healthy and unhealthy ways to break
hobbies.
Yeah. So I think doing that, like, if you play basketball or if you're playing pickup ball or if you get a new hobby like pottery or something, like you're very hyper focused on something that is not your body. So I feel like, that's a good way.
I think breaking the cycle could help a lot. And if it has specifically to do with the gym, maybe go to a CrossFit gym because you're not going to see yourself in the mirror.
It is. There are perks of not seeing yourself in the mirror. So, I'm just going to say.
When you have body dysmorphia, I mean, you saw in the definition, multiple things were about the mirror.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true.
But I also think, I guess like in all that too, you do want to be careful with how... Specifically, like for Lauren, like a bodybuilding show, and then you're like recomping, right? That's just natural. You can't stay that lean. You have to recomp. I know that she said people like prepare you for that, so that probably is not enough. Obviously, be prepared. You know you're gonna put on weight, but also maybe try not to like look at yourself all the time because you know it's inevitable. You know you're gonna put on weight, so it's like you looking in the mirror is like basically just feeding into the problem.
I know there's a way to feed into it. So if you cannot feed into it,
it's hard, but try not like.
Another thing that people do with bodybuilding, especially like the bodybuilding teams that compete, they have a psychologist or
there you go.
Some sort of, because a lot of teams will have like a posing coach that is for that team. And a lot of them now have a psychologist like on staff to help with their athletes.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of it's not just bodybuilding that has that too. Like Olympians have psychologists on staff.
Sports psychologists.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, bodybuilding is a sport. Sports psychology is a thing. And if you really need to like reach out to somebody for body dysmorphia, then I feel like by all means do it. Because I might do that like after nationals because that'll be probably the leanest that I'll ever be, right? Unless I continue on and do pro shows and, go from there. But to date, when I do nationals in December, that will be the leanest I've ever been, hopefully.
And I'm going to say all the right things. I'm not going to mess up anything.
All the things. And I was already thinking about hiring this girl. She, I don't think she is connected to one specific bodybuilding team, but I was going to reach out to her and be like, hey, come December,
Is
what
she a
she's doing.
psychologist?
Yeah. And
See?
she works with a lot of bodybuilders. And I feel like some bodybuilders don't want to reach out to psychologists just, from the general population because they're going to be like, no, they're just going to tell me stop bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And I liked this girl because she's like, I'm not going to tell you stop bodybuilding. I'm just going to tell you how to deal with this stuff.
Right.
And I was like, that is great. And I liked her. I've listened to her on a couple podcasts. And I think it's great that she's like advocating for bodybuilders, like continue with the sport and here's some like tools to help.
That's perfect. And I think Lauren hit it on the head there, the nail on the head, is that it's best to have a plan in place before you need a plan.
Yeah, that's true.
Like especially when like if Lauren didn't know this was coming, you couldn't expect her to have a psychologist that she was going to reach out to, right? Like for your first show. Yes, everyone told you, but it's easy to be like, oh, it's not going to be that hard.
Yeah, like, it's easy to be like, that won't be me.
That won't be me. I'm the outlier.
Yeah, I'm the outlier. No. Yeah. No, I'm not the outlier.
So always, it's way better to prepare because that's literally the treatment of this. It basically said the earlier you catch it, the easier it is. Because if you let it,
once you notice the loop and be like, oh, this is a loop I don't want to be on.
Right.
Like, this is a wheel that I want to get off.
Because that's how we talked about is like body dysmorphia can lead to bulimia or to anorexia. Yeah. And like guys suffer with that as well. Girls suffer with that. And that is where because body dysmorphia itself is not going to like affect your health necessarily. It can
your
if
mental
you're like,
health, yes.
Yeah.
But
if you're
physical health.
If you're exercising excessively, sure, that you could harm yourself. But it's really once you start going down those paths of eating disorders, they're just really hard to deal with. And you're gonna specifically, if you are doing the purging and stuff like this, that's very bad on your entire GI system. So
well, there's different ways of purging too. Like throwing up obviously is like the one that we all think of. Yeah. But like excessive exercise is a form of purging as well.
Or laxative use and these kind of things. Yeah. So and this is a terrible time to make a joke, but AE5. 5 times a day you could go to the bathroom.
Back to it. Our wonderful sponsor of the podcast.
Got to hit it at the end too,
Oh, God.
But
the health and wellness space is going somewhere